Hey guys, Drifter here. I've got a cool video for you today. I'm going to be talking about the new Activision engine that was unveiled at the Game Developers Conference. As a matter of fact, this is so new, I don't think the engine is even named. People are just calling it the Activision engine, and I think this relates directly to the next Call of Duty game that's going to be released, which I personally believe is going to be called Call of Duty Ghosts, due to my inside source that I trust, or Modern Warfare 4, or whatever you want to call it. Even if I'm totally wrong, I'm feeling more right about this one because the engine's already been unveiled. There are links down there in the description where you can go and check this out. I unfortunately do not own the rights to post the footage from the engine or the screenshots or anything else. Many of you may have seen these online on news sites or some other people's sites, but I'm not a news source or organization or an educational source, so I don't own the rights to post this sort of stuff. The link in the description is going to go to a subscriber that was braver than myself, or perhaps more foolish than myself, and he uploaded the whole thing with his commentary. Matter of fact, he was the person that looped me in on this because Activision rolled it out very subtly. They didn't make a big show about it. They didn't really push this or hype this. They just kind of rolled it out at the Game Developers Conference, made a nice presentation there, of course, but it didn't hit the rest of the interwebs that hard, so you can go check out his video and see all that sort of stuff, but unfortunately, I'm not going to take the risk of a copyright strike by posting it. If you've paused this video to go watch that one, what you've seen are some screenshots of some very, very nice looking faces, and of course all the screenshots look nice. Any company can make a nice looking face and airbrush it up, but what you should have also seen later in the video is some very nice facial animations, very, very good looking ones. I would say top tier, among the best I've seen in game engines, and especially for a demo. This is, I believe, in maybe its beta phase right now. I'm just totally guessing, could be an alpha for all I know, but it looks very good. The faces look very animate, very smooth, not in that they're glossy, but they look human. They look oily and liquidy and kind of animate, and the eyes look squishy, and they have that little eye kind of residue and not the glossy eye going on. It looks very, very nice, and I think that this could translate very well into a Call of Duty game or any other game. The screenshots were made using current generation technology, using a single GeForce GTX 680 running at 180 FPS, which means that it's very well optimized engine, at least for the facial animations. It runs very optimal on current generation technology. Next generation technology, I'm not sure how it'll work, but the current generation of next generation consoles, if I'm not confusing you here, the PS4 and the yet unannounced Xbox 720 are nearing their last stage of development where they're changing less and less, and whatever is going to be in those boxes is something that's already in existence right now, which is, I'm guessing, going to be a GTX 680, because that's what the Activision is basing on. And if Activision were smart, they would build their next engine kind of around the generation of graphics cards that's going to be used on the consoles, the PS4, Xbox 720, that sort of stuff, and a little bit less so for the PC. The PC crowd can adapt. The console, once it's done, it's kind of stuck in time, not going to be changing. And I think that it will run really, really well. Well, the facial animations run well, but it might not run as nice when it's in a real game with explosions and actions and lighting, shadow, liquid, all that sort of stuff. Right now it's just faces. The faces look lovely, but faces don't tell me how it's going to look in a real game. It tells me how it could look if we put those sort of facial animations and that level of graphical detail into a game like, say, Call of Duty. It would make a massive improvement over the old Quake engine. The Call of Duty games in the current generation are essentially running on a modified Quake engine. They modified the Quake engine to make the original Call of Duty, and since then they've kind of modified it enough to where it's evolved, if you believe in that sort of thing, to its own engine and to its Call of Duty engine with several itinerations. And I think that Activision is building their own in-house engine for three reasons, three big games. Activision owns three super hot properties. They own a lot of hot properties. It's a huge company, but they own three big things. Number one is actually probably not Call of Duty, I would say FIFA, then Call of Duty, and then, if I'm not mistaken, they also own Madden. I don't play a lot of sports games, but those three games are very hot, very big sellers, but they're also kind of locked into their engines. FIFA, Madden, Call of Duty, they don't change a lot from iteration to iteration. They do get better, they do improve, but most of the improvements are of a more marginal nature. They get 15% better, 20% better. They don't jump like 4, 5, 8 times better graphically, and that's due to the engines they're built in. They're limited to those engines and all the quirks of the game. However, if Activision were smart, and they're a big company, so I'm assuming they're smart, and they developed their own in-house engine that was very well optimized for the games they like to build and that sort of thing, they could do really amazing things. And I think that you'll see this engine hopefully on the next Call of Duty, because I already said in my MW4 Ghost video that the next CoD game is going to be on the next console, and I hope that developers put it on a new engine instead of bringing the old Quake engine from 2003 up a whole nother console generation level. But if not for the next CoD, definitely for the next one after that. You're going to see it in FIFA and Madden, all these sort of things. And the reason that I think that this is going to be, it's just going to be a massive improvement. I just don't know if you understand how huge of an improvement it is. I'm going to relate this mostly to Call of Duty. All those old quirks that you had, like the way bullets come out of the top of your head, the way that you shoot faster in different parts of the map, the way networking works, the way your frames per second, your rate of fire is tied to your frames per second. All of this is because the engine is very, very old and it's built for something that it's not really doing with the Call of Duty game. And when you have a new engine that's optimized for this, all of those old weird things like the way auto aim works, probably quickscoping, that's going to get screwed up too. Bullets coming out of the top of your head, goofy animations, limited facial and body animations, all these sort of geometry glitches, all that sort of stuff is going to go the way of the dinosaur. Inevitably, with a new engine, you'll have some new problems, but all of the old weird things that you had are probably going to go away. I'm expecting a huge improvement, hoping for a big improvement, and now comes the time for the commentary where I have to sit down and talk about Modern Warfare 4 or Call of Duty Ghosts, because I've received an absurd amount of questions about that. That really grew off onto a life of its own. For those of you that don't know, I posted a video on my channel, was it almost a week ago now? Maybe a week and a half ago, about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4, actually not being MW4, that's just the nickname, but it's going to be called Call of Duty Ghosts. I had, we'll say, an inside source leak this to me, and I took a huge risk when I was posting that. I was already at PAX, I sat down, I just kind of flipped open my laptop, and I was like, I'll just read one or two of these messages in my inbox before I head out, and there's this little message sitting there with all that sort of information from a person that I can't talk much about, and I just do a very short back and forth and get a few more little nuggets of information, and in my head I'm just seeing nothing but views and views and viral views, and that's more money for my house or whatever. So I didn't even have gameplay at PAX. I begged J-Hub for gameplay. He got it. I posted it. But I took a big risk. I actually had to call Atomic Partners and IGN to make sure that I wouldn't get a copyright strike about it, because typically Activision is a little bit heavy on the strikes. Well, actually, they're not heavy on the strikes. They usually ask people nicely to take the video down, and if you tell them to go jump in a lake, then you get a strike. That's kind of how that happens. I haven't received any sort of communication from them, so the video stays, but I had to call and ask permission to post it, and I also took a risk on the credibility, because this whole channel is really built around me being a credible, nice guy, maybe? I don't think I'm a nice guy. Other people say that. It's weird, but definitely credible with the in-depth and the stats and the numbers and the hardness of the facts and the figures. Not so much a I feel, not so much a rumor mill kind of thing. And especially going out there being the first guy with all this sort of information saying it's definitely going to be this, it's going to be this. That's a huge, massive risk on the credibility, but I thought the risk was equal to the reward. The reward was pretty good, a lot of new subscribers, a lot of new views, and it's going really well. But it is a risk, and I could still be wrong about this. I could be getting trolled super hard. I don't think that's the case, but it's possible. Some things could change in development between now and November, definitely, or probably more like August. That's when the campaign will really start out for the advertising. But I could just be wrong, and I would feel bad about that. I'd have to make an apology video, these sort of things. I don't want that to happen, but it could happen. I also don't know anything more about this than what was in the video. I was given a very limited list of facts and figures to talk about. Not even facts and figures, just straight up facts, just little nuggets of information. And I stretched it out about as much as I could and extrapolated as much was reasonable, but that's really all I know. I don't know anything else. If something comes my way, I'll definitely be the first to tell you about it, but I don't. And there was lots of arguing about the next generation consoles, that the game is going to be on next generation consoles. I really think it will, kind of in the same way that, if I'm not mistaken, you had Call of Duty 3 and 4 really pushing the Xbox. The Xbox usually got some Halo launch titles right after it. PlayStation 4 had some Metal Gear coming, but it all came a little bit delayed. I think that this one might be a big sales push for the next consoles, because the consoles are going to be coming out in December, at least the PlayStation 4 is, and the new Call of Duty game is going to be coming out sometime in the fall. That's almost inevitable. I would be really surprised if they just totally skipped a year. They can do that. That's their luxury, but they got them on a pretty good yearly kind of thing here. And nothing would really push console sales like the next generation of Call of Duty, the most popular shooter, probably the most popular game in the US aside from Madden and FIFA, only being on the next consoles, and Activision could work out a nice deal with them and that would sell a lot. But they do kind of mess over the other market, the huge people that have the last generation consoles that can't afford the new ones, that might not buy it, the this and the that. And I'm somewhat less sure about this fact. It feels a little funny in my stomach, but it's what I was given, so it's what I said, and it's what I'm going to stick with. And a lot of people have asked me, and I mentioned before, why wasn't the video taken down? Why wasn't the MW4 Ghost video taken down? Number one, I didn't use any copyrighted material. That's a pretty big one. I didn't slander anybody. That's another pretty big one. And I ask about, what if they don't like it? Will they take it down? And the answer that I was given is that typically a game company they won't ask you to take it down, because if it disappears, then obviously this was right, and you get this conspiracy people flooding in. So I'm thinking either it was very right and nobody wants to send me a nice takedown letter because it'll make me look more right and leak stuff about their game, or it's so wrong it's comical. Maybe I've been fed so much bad information, so much garbage that like they're sitting there at Activision like, hey, did you hear about Call of Duty Ghosts? Casper's gonna be in it. This Dripper guy is an idiot. That could totally be happening right now while I sit at home doing videos speculating about engines and things to come. They could just be sitting in the office laughing at all my silliness, having all their plans, for the next 2 years in advance. Like, wow, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. And that's kind of where I'm coming from on all this. I hope you learned something new about the engine. I hope you enjoyed the commentary. I hope you enjoyed the gameplay. It was a bit of a struggle for me here to go all the way back to MW2. I thought I would do it just because it was relevant to the Ghost title, whatever. And because MW3 has really bad lag compensation, it's almost unplayable for me. I struggle with it. But MW2 runs smooth as butter, and so does Black Ops and Black Ops 2. MW3 just doesn't like me very much. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the commentary. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.